Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. I'm at the Tishman Auditorium in the New School for my Screen Actors Guild Foundation and BroadwayWorld Conversations Q&A series, celebrating the vibrant theater community here in New York City and the union actors who have a career on both stage and screen. My guest is one of our most celebrated premier actresses, Tony and Emmy Award winner Stockard Channing, who is back on Broadway, starring in Terrence McNally's hit comedy, It's Only a Play. Enjoy. How did the play originally come about for you?
Well, actually, it was last March. I got a call from Jack OBrien and Terrence, and this play had been in existence for a bunch of years and been rewritten over the years. And it happened that Matthew and Nathan happened to be in town the same day. They said, "Well, can you get here tomorrow? Can we all read through this thing?" And I went down to Terrence's house, Terrence and Tom's house, and we all sat around in the living room and read it. And it was hilarious and it was funny. But you know, you thought, oh, great, it's great to sit in someone's living room and read a play. But then about a month or two later, they said, we think we really can pull this together. And it did. It came together. And we went into rehearsal on July 28th. So it was just all fortuitous. It has been fortuitous ever since. It's amazing how things sometimes go very well, and sometimes great things don't go very well. That's life.
You are flawless in this show. Comedic. How many people have seen It's Only a Play? You are hilarious as Virginia, the washed-up, substance-abusing Hollywood star. What do you love the most about her and playing her?
Well, it's changed a bit over the months we've been doing it. It's evolved. She's still crazy in this, but now I realize why she's crazy, because the arc of it has shifted a little bit, because I realize how strong she is to survive the ups and downs of what she's been through. I mean, I said the other day to someone, she's a schmoo. And of course, I'm dating myself, because Al Cap, remember Al Cap? Little Abner, forget about it. But there was about a schmoo, and that you knock them down and they bounce right back. And at cost, though. And I realize over time I play her that she's even crazier than I thought she was, because she's in a terrible situation, because she smells it coming. She smells it coming by that first bad review, and she knows how bad it's going to be. And she also, this is this huge opportunity in her life. She's not a kid, and she knows how bad the business, she knows all of it. And so she smells this meteor coming into her life. And there's where the comedy is. It's like, in the more terrified and screwed up she is, the funnier it is. Which she'll just tell you about the sadism of comedy. That's what people, better her than me, I guess, I don't know.
Working again with director Jack OBrien, what makes him such a great director? Everybody who I've spoken to adores Jack.
Jack is first of all, he's a wonderful human being. Let's start there. He's not a biatch, you know what I mean? He is, and there are lots of people in this business, and I remember when I was starting out, I always get very cowed by people that I just knew they were working off of negative stuff. The other thing about Jack is he has this incredible combination of really down-to-earth, Midwestern, that's who I am, with this incredible range of knowledge of opera, of Shakespeare, of this and that. I mean, you know, this odd admixture of stuff. He's not a snob. He'd be entitled to be one because he's so well educated, and he's not some sort of goofball, but he was entitled to be a goofball too because he's really funny, he understands humor, he loves to play. So this combination, I've never met anyone who has that to that degree, and he's an incredible hard worker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the smartest man in the room.
He's the smartest man in the room, but never plays it,
Yeah.
never uses that, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, you're working with one of the finest casts. You open this show with you, Nathan Lane, Matthew Broderick, Megan Mullally, F. Murray Abraham, Rupert Grint, Micah Stock, and now you're doing it with Martin Short,
Yeah.
Malik Pancholi, and Katie Finneran.
Right.
I mean,
Katie.
what's it like working with all of those people on stage and sparring with them?
We all just adjusted to each other, and you know, it's like a basketball team. You got a new player, and some of them are star players, and some of them are great players, but you have to play the game. And you have to play it with each other, and that's what we've been doing. And Nathan's coming back in 2 weeks, and he and I can't imagine anybody but he and Nathan playing this part because it requires this huge energy and this huge understanding of comedy, of you know, that kind of energy to drive a play. But Marty's way of doing it is a completely different way than Nathan's, and it still works. So it's really, it's teamwork. It's a true ensemble. It's not farce completely because it does become a real play at times. But what it is teamwork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it like in the rehearsal room? Because you don't really have an audience, and you really need that audience added into the mix to make it complete.
Absolutely.
Did you for this?
I have a very close friend who's a wonderful actor, and she said to me that she doesn't know anything in the rehearsal room. You just try to learn the moves and the lines for comedy. For drama, you can create relationships, you this and that, and you're not like open to an audience, you know, lying on the back like a puppy with your legs in the air, hoping they don't kill you. You know, the way you are in comedy, because you don't know what other people are going to laugh at. You know, you try to create a reality, but let's face it, you also, in terms of the timing of the thing, have to know what they're thinking. And we were so stunned by the audience's sympathy with our plight, because when then we realized they've never had to have horrible reviews that they actually read out loud. They've heard gossip, they've heard innuendo, you know, but not people writing it in print saying you are a piece of dreck, you know, and having the whole world read it. And they were like stunned and amazed. And over time, you just work with them, but you really don't know until you get in front of an audience what you've got in a comedy.
What do you remember about the first night you went on stage and it's only a play with an audience? What do you remember about
we
that
all
night?
remember it unbelievably clearly.
Yeah.
Because the other thing is, rehearsing a comedy like this, it's not, I hate to say this, I'm really not being pretentious, but it's not unlike with 7 people on the stage rehearsing Shakespeare, because you've got to get all the pieces to flow into the other. So you'll rehearse a little bit of chunk, and you'll go off and run your lines with somebody, and they'll be rehearsing, and they'll be rehearsing, they'll be rehearsing. But when you put it all together, it's like a spinning top. You've got to get it up to speed. And when you get up to speed, you don't know if you're getting up to the right speed and which bits, whatever. And there's not a lot of time for a director to deal with individual performances. So when you've got, as I said, it is like a team in that there's 7 people all playing parts. If you've got a star, if you've got 3 people on a stage and they have a relationship, if you have a two-hander, which are really tough, because everybody has to learn their lines right away to just even get near performing, but at least you've got focus. In a comedy like this, you have to do it on your own. You have to, and Jack would say, I want you to listen to the play every night. And it's, you know, like in that skating shows, crack the whip, and you have 3 people going around, and you have to add one, and then you have to add one, and you have to add one until you've got 20 people, going crazily around the rink. It's sort of like that with comedy. You have to grab on and know what everybody else has been doing.
Besides waiting for Ben Brantley, and the Times is what tonight is all about. Who cares what a non-entity like me thinks?
You're not a non-entity, and you're very well thought of.
You're also the most vicious critic in New York.
Throw that in my face.
She reminds me of nothing so much as a female impersonator in search of a female to impersonate.
What a dreadful thing to say about anyone, even a female impersonator.
I said that about the Baby June in the Cape May Playhouse production of Gypsy years ago. It's curious you should remember it.
I was the Baby June in the Cape May Playhouse production of Gypsy.
You changed your name.
After your review, I changed my face.
Because everybody's process is different. Like Nathan Lane comes in the first day of rehearsal off book. He knows
Yes,
everything,
he
right?
does.
I think I got my answer.
I don't. No, it's just we all have our different processes. It's absolutely true, and I'm sure he was like tapping his foot, saying, and we're all feeling like dummies. But eventually, you get on the same page, and we all were that first. We were stunned when the audience laughed the way they were. stunned. I mean, stunned. I don't mean we were stunned. No, we were completely amazed, as were the producers, as was Terrence, as was Jack. And that's when we realized that we probably had a little nugget there that was accurate.
Yeah, just brilliant, absolutely
Thank
brilliant.
you.
Well, I want to go back to the beginning. How did a history and literature major become one of our greatest actresses?
Well, first of all, when I was in college, I was really lucky because there was a whole bunch of people in the community that were making theater, and it was all extracurricular, and they were extraordinary people. I mean, there was Jimmy Woods, who was at MIT, John Lithgow, Tommy Lee Jones, a lot of people you probably never have heard of, like Doug Kennedy, but he basically started the National Lampoon, which led to Saturday Night Live. I mean, if you could put a big genealogical map on the wall, you'd see this incredible influence of these young people who influenced each other. And it was also a fantastic time when the world seemed to be able to be opened up to all of us. But a lot of it was luck, and it was a fortuitous time. And you don't get that all the time. So I had no desire really to study American history and literature, but I will say that the one thing that college taught me was how to think and how to make decisions and how to read, which is a good thing because not many other times in the rest of your life are going to teach you that, especially how to read. So I've said this before, I ran off and joined the circus.
Yeah. What was that defining moment for you when you said, I want to be an actor? Was it when you did
Three Penny Opera. I was, I think I was a junior in college, and a wonderful man, no longer with us, called Tim Mayer, had directed. He was the wunderkind of our generation at Harvard, and he cast me, I don't know why, and I came out into the light and I sang Pirate Jenny, and I knew something incredible for the first time in my life had happened to me. And I didn't know what it was, and it was crazy and mysterious. And I knew that everything in my brain and in my creative side and in my emotions, I somehow was able to make up this person and sing that incredible song and know what she was talking about, which should have had nothing to do with my past experience. It was very mysterious, and it was irresistible.
Yeah.
And that was it. I was 19 years old.
But you were close to throwing in the towel when you made your Broadway debut in the chorus
Yes.
of the musical Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Yes, I could not get arrested. I was just for the record, I was the oldest person in the company of Two Gentlemen of Verona. And I was in the chorus, and I was the understudy for the white maid, because the entire company, the conceit was you had to be black or Puerto Rican. And I not only was the oldest, I was white. So I was this minority. And I'm the understudy for the other minority with the role. I mean, it was crazy, but I'd lost a job playing Sonia at the Roundabout as it existed then. I was fired, actually, and it was just the end of the world. And they said that the original lead of Two Gentlemen of Verona was a wonderful woman called La Lupe, and La Lupe was like the Edith Piaf of Cuba at the time, and she was extraordinary, but she was so extraordinary that she couldn't fit into a Broadway musical, and they replaced her with her understudy, whose name was Diana Davila. And so the job of understudy was open. So I went and auditioned for Galt McDermott and Joe Papp. I think they thought it was so hysterical. There was this Irish Catholic girl from the Upper East Side who had to play a part that when she was upset, she would break into her native Spanish. But I had this, you can't make this shit up. I had a roommate in boarding school since I was 13 years old who taught me this Venezuelan song about a young Indian boy and his bird called Chowi. Now, I doubt very much if anybody in this audience could sing Chowi for me, but I sang it for Galt McDermott and John Guare and Joe Papp, and I think they thought it was so absurd. They said, "Oh, give it to her," you know.
Well, you starred as Rizzo in one of the most successful and popular movie musicals of all time, Grease. How did you view the experience then, and how do you view the film now?
Well, it's interesting. At the time, I was kind of at a nadir in my life. I had no money, and I had a mortgage and this and that. And it was kind of, oh God, this isn't really working out great. And when Alan cast me out of the blue, it was because they'd seen a movie I did that was directed by Jerry Schatzberg called, I think it's called Sweet Revenge now. It's very hard to find. And I played a car thief, but a lot of people remembered was the fortune in the business that I played this sort of la-di-da heiress. And they saw this and they realized I could do this other kind of stuff, whatever. But I was kind of at the bottom, I was at the bottom of the barrel, the bottom of a drawer, maybe, But I decided the only way I could do this was to look at her like she was just a real person. And I was so much older than she was in life, but I couldn't think about that, so I sort of threw myself back into what I felt when I was her age or even younger, and the complexity of adolescence and hormones and sexuality and all that sort of stuff. And because I was really quite a bit older, I think that added to the isolation of Rizzo. And also Dinah Manoff and I, by total accident, were friends. And so that relationship was always there. We stayed friends all the way through it. And if you look through it, you'll see that sort of connection they have. But I worked on it the way, I didn't kid the material, let's put it that way. And I was very much in love with that song, There Are Worse Things I Can Do. And I fought for it, and Pat Birch, who directed all the musical sequences, helped me fight for it, and Bronte Woodard, no longer with us. And if you'll see that sequence, it's very simply shot. And Alan really indulged me. He said, "Oh, go ahead, just do the fucking thing." And like after lunch, we shot it in this corridor in the Venice High School. And if you'll see, this is a little bit of trivia. Jeff Conaway, in the background, is working on his car, and that was his idea, and he wanted to be there. And literally, I remember lunch, I said, "Well, we're going to do this scene, we're going to shoot this movie." He said, "Well, I want to be there," and he went in the back, and it was just a beautiful thing for him to do, and he said, he's working on his car with the hood up, I think you can see it small, and she is relating to him. It was so dear of him to do it. And then when the movie was being cut together, Alan really wanted to cut. He thought it was a downer, the song and whatever. Maybe everybody else thinks it's a downer too. I certainly don't. But, it was so much about what that character was. And it got in there by the skin of its teeth. And Pat Birch fought for it, and I think Bronte, and I don't know, and I think and the director as well. I mean, but it's in there, and I'm so grateful that it is.
It's one of the best moments in the show and the film. They look right. I never knew they were considering cutting that song.
Oh, they hated it. Alan said, "Oh, this is such a bummer." And it's going to be all happy and whatever. And it was a long shoot, but it was incredibly technically beautifully well done. It's beautifully shot. It's beautifully produced. You just couldn't do that again. I mean, the talent putting that thing together, the costumes and this, it looks like it's a little bubblegum kind of thing. It's not. It was a massive endeavor, and Paramount was weight behind it. It was great. We got lousy reviews, and look at it now.
Yeah. Well, after that, you came back to New York to your
Yes,
theatrical
and that's
roots.
sort of what I feel my life really began when I went to Williamstown and did Joe Egg for Arvin. You probably know this. I wrote 3 letters to 3 producers I knew, and one of them was Arvin Brown, and who ran Long Wharf at the time. And he said, "We want to do Joe Egg with Richard Dreyfuss this summer." And I said, "Really, really?" And I did it. And then we went to Long Wharf and did huge, lovely raves from papers. But it took us 4 years to get it on Broadway because Richard didn't want to do it, and Jim Dale ended up doing it, and it turned into a wonderful thing, short-lived but wonderful. And I felt like my life was back on track.
And you won the Tony Award for that.
Yes, I did.
But you had a lot to do with bringing it to Broadway, didn't you?
Well, yeah, I think we all did, because people, as I remember Johnny Lithgow saying to me at the time, "Oh, it's a mandate. It's a mandate. Of course you're coming in." Well, it was like everybody thought everybody else was doing it. But I actually know I did march into the Schubert's office myself and said, "I mean, we're just closing in a week, and don't you guys want to do it?" It was shameless what I did. It was Jerry and Bernie. Jerry and Bernie sat there and sort of went, "Well, my dear," oh no, this is such a horrible story myself. You know what I'm about to say. They said, "Well, my dear, you could win a Tony for this." And I went, "Kenahora." I was shameless. And I went skittering back to Manny Avsenberg's office, who set the whole thing up. And he's there with all his orchids. And I'm sitting there going, "How did it go? How did it go?" And the phone rings. He said, "Wait a minute, shh." He said, Yeah, I definitely think it would go. Don't you, Bernie? Yeah, well, wait a minute. And by that time, he got someone else famous on Roger was throwing money at, you know what I'm saying? And suddenly, this afternoon, I went running back to the theater. And I said, I think we did it. But it was a complete, it was like out of some horrible Hollywood movie from 1935. Yeah. And we did it, and they went for it.
Yeah. Well, let's get into 6 Degrees. You received an Obie Award, the Drama League Award, numerous other nominations, a Tony nomination, an Oscar nomination for the brilliant portrayal in the film. What did that role of Weeza Kittredge mean to you, and that whole time period in that show?
Well, it was like 4 years of my life, starting with the Mitzi, and then going to the Beaumont, and then we went to London, and then we did the movie, and it was all with different cast members. It all took about 4 years.
But it started originally like it was going to be 6 weeks for
6
you?
weeks at the Mitzi Newhouse, yes. Yep.
And it was sort of being rewritten as you were going along.
Oh, yeah. That's what I said earlier about, I realized that I couldn't be mushy with, I don't know what my motivation is here. No, he couldn't be afforded. He had to be clean. And then it came to me. It came to me. And I remember there was a wonderful actor in it, now gone, called Stam Stoneburner. Yeah. And he said, "Oh, my friends came last night and they loved you." I said, "What do they like about her?" Because I realized in my own background, I was thinking of this Upper Park Avenue, and he said, "She tells the truth." And bingo, and that was it. I realized you can be as la-di-da as you like, but that was the thing about Weeza Kittredge. She was an honest soul, a pure soul.
He came into our house.
He cooked us dinner.
He told us the story of Catcher in the Rye.
He said he was the son of Sidney Poitier. Ooh.
I'm so sorry to bother you, but I've been hurt.
His shirt's bleeding.
His shirt isn't bleeding. He's bleeding.
You gave him my pink shirt?
You gave a complete stranger the keys to our house?
This is so pathetic.
This is so racist.
That night was the happiest night I've ever had.
I read somewhere that everybody on this planet is separated by only 6 other people. 6 degrees of separation.
Your portrayal of sophisticated, world-weary Vera Simpson in the recent production of Pal Joey was one of the most glorious musical theater performances. I saw you in that 6 times. You and I had many conversations during this. Pal Joey fans?
Thank you.
It was so naturally layered, but you had this deep sexuality and a deep frustration. What did taking on that role mean to you?
Well, a lot, just singing that damn song, you know. I loved it so, and Paul Gemignani and I, the musical director, worked on that, and Joe. And he said he didn't want it sort of, you know, da-da-da-da. He didn't want that at all. He wanted that chamber thing and what was going on. So we worked on what had just gone on. She just had sex with this gorgeous young man. And we worked on all those nuances go on in it. And you know, you want to say, I can really sing, guys. I can really sing loud and big, you know. But no, he said, you have to sing it soft and this and the other. And sometimes my voice would crack and isn't it? So it was, but it was real of what she was going through. And it was like this little monologue of her mixed feelings about it, her insecurities, whatever. But the other part of it was, because Matt Risch, who I played opposite, we had this great chemistry. So people went, oh, you know, stuff is really going on there, which I thought is definitely part of the character, because she's not just, you know, some woman in a store buying a guy a suit. You know what I mean? There's got to be reason why they were together, even if it's not going to last. You've got to feel that power between them and what it cost her and what it cost him. And anyway, so I'm glad you liked it, because that was our approach to that story.
I want to get into some of your television work. You received 3 Emmy Awards throughout your vast television career. You are known to millions of fans for your portrayal of First Lady Abby Bartlett on The West Wing. West Wing fans? How did The West Wing happen for you originally?
I was in Canada making a movie, and I got a call from my agent saying, we're talking about this part in West Wing, and I'd just seen the pilot on television in the hotel room, because it was like October or something, and it just gone on, and I said, well, that's a great show, and they sent me this script, and I had very little to do in it. I said, well, that's a wasted shot, but wow. And I was going hiking. I had 6 days off from this movie. I was going hiking in Canada, and I had a big duffel coat, my boots, whatever. And I was in Calgary changing planes, and I got a call, this is absolutely true, saying, don't get on that plane, because we have to work this out. We've worked this out. We've worked this out. I think we can do this. And I said, well, anyway, I got in the other plane and I went to LA, and I had no rehearsal, nothing. They poured me into this ill-fitting evening dress, and I said, what am I doing here? Martin was with a white tie and tails, sneaking a cigarette behind the set, and I said, hello, hi, we've never met, nice to meet you. All right, we're ready for you now. And we got on the top of a stairway. It was called the State Dinner. There were hundreds of extras, and there's Martin. I said, nice to meet you. He said, so, I said, how long have we been married? Okay, action, down the stairs, on the stairs, on the stairs. And, you know, we go back, okay, take 2. 35 years. And then back, okay. And then up the stairs, I said, we have a what? A grandchild. A grandchild? Action. And it was like that. It was just, but, you know, it turned out we had great chemistry, and there was a couple of moments, and everybody loved it, and the ratings went up. And yeah. And then Aaron and I had lunch. He said, I'm thinking of making you a doctor. Okay. And I'm thinking, he said, I wrote the first, the teaser, and I've made Bartlett have a cold, and I think you're his doctor, and I think he has MS. I said, really? Okay. I don't know what to say to that. And but that's where that seed came of the plot line where she holds the secret, and later she loses her license or doesn't lose license, blah, 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 because she's holding on to this secret. And then, so all of that, that's the seed. That was how Aaron's brain works.
I love how it started out as this little sort of
And
guest
if he
spot.
had probably written the teaser after lunch, never would have happened that way.
You received critical acclaim for playing the role of matriarch Polly Wyeth in John Robin Bates' drama, Other Desert Cities. For those of you who didn't see it, about a wealthy Republican family dogged by its past, directed again by Joe Mantello.
Yeah.
I remember you saying to me at the time, you originally weren't sure if you could pull Polly off.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Why?
They sent it to me, it was July, it was 4 or 5 years ago, July, whatever, and I was in Ireland working, and I was going to London after that, and I was there for about 2 weeks in London. I think I spent the entire time in the hotel room reading this damn play and figuring, I said, I don't know if I can do this, because I just didn't have much connection with her off the page. This was also an earlier version, I will add. They did make certain adjustments to it. But I realized that with most things, if I could read it out loud and something would kick in, and I would read it out loud by myself in this hotel room, but I said, no, let's have a reading of it, not to test the play, but test my ability to do this part. And also, I was actually playing someone who was like much older than I was, something that nobody seemed to matter. I said, wait a minute, I think I'm 85. Just do the math. And I kept saying, do the math, and they would say, shut up. And I know, but I just wanted to put a disclaimer above my head, saying, I understand she's 85. No, I mean, they wouldn't, because I thought, wait a minute, I'm not. Anyway, that didn't seem to bother anybody but me. But anyway, so we did a reading in a room, at Lincoln Center, literally a room with Andre there, and Bernie was there, and nobody else. It wasn't like, an audience. And something happened. I don't know. I guess that story, what had happened to her, what was going on, this and that, there was a little thing that was blooming there. It wasn't anywhere near what we had when we ended up. And also they went off and rewrote, Robbie and Joe rewrote a lot of it and trimmed a lot of it and got a lot of her really crappiest parts out. I mean, she was sort of homophobic. She was, I said, which was a real red flag for me, and other things. And they shaped and cut and this and that. So by the time we did it at the Mitzi, I guess rehearsals in January, so it's almost 6 months later, the thing emerged, and a lot of it had to do with the casting. Stacy Keach was just, unbelievable, and we had this great connection because we had known each other for like 30 years, and so we found this marriage building up, these relationships, in every member of that cast, and we just became like a family as opposed to some, bitchy Palm Springs Republican female and some, ex-male Republican movie star. It took on another life that was about families. And that is what grew and I think took over.
If you could sum up the best part of the experience of working on It's Only a Play, what has it been for you?
It's a success. Yes, it's true. Yeah. I'm sorry. That's great.
That's a big one.
That's it. The end, and they all go, "Yay! We had a great time. We love you. We're fabulous." You go, "Great. Hope you do tomorrow too." But you do. No, seriously. There's nothing better when you come out there and everyone has had a great time, and that's what I hear. It's the best. It's the best when you say, "Oh, we did it. We did it again." That's true.
Okay. My final question is here's the big one for you. Here you go. What is the best bit of advice that you've been given, both personally or professionally, that you live by?
I hate to be such a wimp, but I really hate superlatives. Positive or negative. Yeah. The worst, the best, the most, the this, the that. I don't think of life like that. I, honest to God, don't. Because, if you can really pick it out right away, I don't think you've been alive very long, because that's what life is about. It's this constant barrage of things that you think you love and then you put them aside and you don't like. I mean, that's that pattern of life that changes all the time, and that's the joy of it. And I'm lucky enough to have a very interesting life, so I don't you know, have a little altar up there in my brain. I'm ready for the next person that tells me something that's went, wow, that's great, and I'll take it, because I think that's what moves you through life.
Yeah. I have had the best time sitting with you. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Stockard Channing.
Thank you.